while we are in the mood for thanking, I would also like to thank Institute of Medicine and the Forum for giving us this opportunity to co-host this session on behalf of Ambedkar University. We should get into the next session now. So I would first like to introduce the panelists who are there. Joan Lombardi, many of you must be already knowing her. She's an international expert on child development and social policy. She currently serves as senior advisor to the Buffett Early Childhood Fund on national initiatives and to Bernard Van Leer Foundation on global child development strategies. She also directs early opportunities focusing on innovation, policy, and philanthropy. There's a long CV, so I would leave it to you to read it. It's in your package. We also have with us Subrat Das. He's serving as Executive Director of Center for Budget and Governance Accountability in New Delhi since August 2010. Center for Budget and Governance Accountability is an independent policy research organization which analyzes government finances in India and promotes transparent, accountable, and participatory governance in the country. We also have Prativa Kundu, who is also working in the same institution as a senior research officer, and I think they will both be presenting together. So today's morning session, we are going to be looking at, we had some sense of the Indian scenario yesterday in the keynote address, and today we're going to be looking at India's experience in terms of investing in child development. So I would hand it over to Joan.
Good morning. I'd like to start by having all of you join me in thanking Dr. Vinita Kaul for her incredible years. You know, it's been a particular thrill to see new and emerging leaders here joining us, but we all work on the shoulders of people like Dr. Kaul, who spent her lifetime on early childhood issues and many others that are in the room. So it's important for us to acknowledge those amazing contributions. I want to thank everybody for coming back for day 2. This session is a bridge, really, between day 1 and day 2. We've been very excited over the last 2 days. We're putting up on the screen the number of people, the countries that they represent that have been tuning in to the website. Many of them have been listening online, and we're excited to see that we're starting to reach people around the world with these sessions. I'm told that the Twitter feed is very active, and that those tweets actually have reached about 88,000 people with the people that follow the tweets. It's not 88,000 tweets. We should be so lucky. But anyway, so we're very excited about the reach that the sessions are having. We really believe that the purpose of this, as we start our day 2, it's important for us to come back to why we're here together, and that is to make visible the needs of young children, to make visible the innovations that are going on around the world, the challenges that are going on around the world, to improve investments expand investments in young children. That's our real goal. New, better, and smarter investments in the lives of young children. This session is going to focus again on budget, but I want to do, before I turn it over to the 2 speakers and then I'll moderate the session, I want to just share 4 reflections from yesterday to bridge the information that we heard yesterday. We started our session on financing, really thinking about financing in 3 parts: cost, sources of financing, and how they're allocated. On costs, I think we're making progress, framing the elements that are included, that should be included, But I think that one of the things that struck me yesterday was that when we start talking about costs, we really have to talk first about what we're funding. And I think we didn't have as much conversation about that as we need to do. What's our goal? What type of services? What's the delivery mechanism? And particularly, what's the level of quality? Because that's the key to affecting the issue. We had just a little bit yesterday about the issues of the staff wages, but I think we've got to keep coming back to that because we know that that's a big part of the costs. So it's important for us to do that. Secondly, that we began the conversation about sources and structure of funding, but we only just scratched the surface. We talked a little bit about public-private partnerships and the new private investments, but we didn't spend enough time, I don't think, on what are the variations in public financing mechanisms, and how are the structures of those financing mechanisms being developed in a way that those funds can be used efficiently. And finally, how are the funding streams harmonized? So although we're making progress in our conversation, we've got a long way to go. Thirdly, it wouldn't be an early childhood conference without a focus on the multi-sectoral challenges. I just wanted to remind everybody why we have multi-sectoral challenges, because the domains of development for children are integrated. And we have to keep coming back to that. That's the reason that we have these challenges. So it's a good reason that brings us to those challenges. We were very fortunate yesterday to have our colleague from Bihar frame the issue for us in a way that I think can move us forward on multi-sectoral challenges. And that is that if we focus on outcomes, that's the driving force behind bringing the sectors together. If we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, it's the best way for us to get there. So we thank you for those words of wisdom. And finally, before I turn it over to the speakers, I was really feeling at the end of the day that we're in a transformational moment here, that this conference is about bridging old thinking and moving into new thinking. So it's no longer child survival versus child development. It's the continuum of survival and thriving. It's no longer public or private funding. I think, as Tamara Teak pointed out yesterday, you can have public financing in a private delivery system. It's no longer about family versus institution. Those two things have to come together. It's not mother versus father. They're both parents. It's not health or education. It's both of them. It's not children under 3 versus preschool children. We're not going to pick. It's a continuum. And as child advocates, we have to stay focused on bridging those divides rather than choosing between them, because children and families need all of it. So those are my reflections on yesterday. Let me turn to the budget. We had several conversations yesterday about the situation in India. We had a lot of focus from the government perspective. As many of you know, I've spent most of my life coming in and out of government, so I have a tremendous appreciation for the dance between the way governments portray budgets and the way outside groups can talk about budgets. I think there are differences and there's ways they come together. There is some overlap. Governments, in my experience, present budgets by sector, although it's changing and it's moving to outcomes, but their goal is to highlight that the priorities of that administration. Civil society budget tracking is different, and that's what we're going to hear this morning. They're really looking at how much has been allocated and making sure there's transparency. Is it enough? Is it enough, and is it being spent adequately? And we heard a lot about that yesterday. And is it being spent in an efficient way? So we're very lucky this morning, and the paper that has been produced specifically for this session will be available on the website as of this morning, to hear the situation in India from a little bit different angle than we heard it yesterday. As Vanita mentioned, Subrat Das is going to do the main presentation. Prativa Kundu is here to answer questions. They're both from the Center for Budgeting, Governance, Accountability, which is a policy, research, and advocacy organization here in New Delhi. So with that, let me turn this over to Subrat. Thank you.